this weekend. It made $123 million opening.
Deserved.
Broke a couple records. Now, a lot of people were projecting, including me. First off, this was projected. I said last week on the show this movie's going to be bigger than a lot of people think. A lot of box office analysts were projecting 40 to 50 million opening. And they were.
But the marketing of this movie was really good.
I was thinking more along the lines of 80, 90. That's kind of where I was at, because I said this is going to be big. We were talking about this earlier. We had kind of a lackluster August. There was really not a lot out there. The stuff that did get released on the independent circuit, I thought was really good, and I'll talk about that. But this movie did not have. This movie came at a time when the box office was barren. Not a single wide release came out last weekend. There was nothing for people to see. So this, with it making $123 million this weekend, it was the widest opening for an R-rated movie. It was out in over 4,000 theaters nationwide. It is the second largest R-rated opening, highest grossing R-rated opening behind Deadpool. Deadpool made about $132 million, and it shattered the highest grossing film in September, which was previously Gravity, with like half of that. Now, the other thing is too, and this is another thing that people like to say, oh, this doesn't matter, these kind of like disasters or these kind of, like things like the Mayweather McGregor fight, these things don't play into the box office. Well, here's the thing. I really believe that it could have had $130 million or more opening. But you know what you have to remember? Hurricane Irma was this weekend. That meant over 200 theaters in Florida were closed.
That is right.
So that takes away that. It could have easily, I think, made over 130 million. Personally, I think it could have done
just those theaters alone. Definitely,
I think so. And you got to remember too, like, again, this is a must-see movie, and then not to say like, oh, it's hurting because it didn't make X amount. It didn't make 15 million more. This is a huge success. The film was only budgeted about 35 million. It was wise for the distribution, Warner Brothers, to keep this fairly a small budget movie. 30 million is not a lot for a horror movie. And it really would have been interesting, I think, though, to see, and I'm going to talk about this later, maybe next month we can talk about this, about Halloween box office weekend and how Halloween box office is not a very good time to release a movie. But I'm curious to see, what if this movie came out in like middle of October? What would it have done? Because a lot of horror movies like Paranormal Activity, Saw, the sequels, they came out over Halloween, and a lot of people aren't going to the movies around Halloween, or at least the weekend of Halloween. And in November, nobody wants to see horror movies that much anymore, so they drop off really quickly. I would have liked to see how it played in October, and I want to see how it's going to hold. But this is a huge win, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, exactly. Just the fact that it's the largest, with the rated R opening.
Yes.
Like it's the biggest rated R.
Yeah, second largest.
Oh, okay,
behind Deadpool.
Behind Deadpool. Deadpool did beat it?
Deadpool did beat it. It was at Deadpool made $132 million. This made $123.
Well, yeah, I mean, either way, that's a success. Especially, yeah, like you were talking about earlier, there has been nothing at the movie theater that made any money. Hitman's Bodyguard was at the top of the box office, sure, but it was like 10 million a week, basically.
Yeah,
it was very low numbers.
And it wasn't an expensive movie, but I mean, Annabelle Creation, those two did pretty well, but there was no competition. Now I would argue too, there were some good movies last month. Some of which might come in my top 10. I loved Patty Cakes, which nobody saw because nobody got to see it in the theaters because very few. Ingrid Goes West was really good.
I actually saw that. I loved that movie.
You did see that. I loved Ingrid Goes West. That was a great social satire. Wish more people saw that one. But there were a lot of really interesting movies last month. I mean, there really were. I mean, even All Saints, which was a Christian movie, didn't love it, but I thought that it had an interesting sort of subtext. So there was a lot on the small circuit. If you read between the headlines, there was a lot last month. But it is the shot to the arm for the movie industry right now that it needed. The industry needed this success right now. And I just find it funny because I was talking last week about how everybody's being so reactionary over the Labor Day box office and saying like movies are dead, nobody's going to the movies and stuff. Well, then a week later, a movie about a demonic sewer clown makes $123 million. All of a sudden, movies are the greatest thing in the world again.
Yeah, it's weird how that can happen.
It's just It's reactionary journalism. It's reactionary movie journalism. Joe Viso and myself, Steve Pulaski, talking it. We will be back in a few short minutes to kind of wrap up our thoughts on the new highest grossing film to be released in September. You're listening to Sleepless with Steve on FM 89.